Good morning, everyone. It's Dave. There's my trusty sidekick, Bo. As you can tell, it's hot today. So we're about 89, 90 degrees right now. It is Friday. It is the 28th of June, 2024. Thought we'd take a look at the yard and garden today. We haven't ever really talked about the grass. And normally when I shoot these videos, it's at the end of the week, and it's been about a week since I mowed the yard. So it always kind of looks a little bit unkept. But this is how it normally looks right after the yard is mowed. And the main thing that I would tell you to do for lawn care is make sure that in the summer months you do want to let the grass grow a little bit longer, set those mower blades just slightly higher, and it's going to be much better for the overall health of the grass. How often do I fertilize the lawn? Not very often. I generally use like Grow Power maybe once a year, but that's really about it. There's not a whole lot more to do, and I've not ever used any weed killers on the yard or in the garden at all, period. So I think that's all I really wanted to tell you. Watering about every other day and about 7 minutes per section is generally sufficient. Now, when we get to 100+ degree days, then yeah, you want to go out, syringe, you want to go out and water even every day, maybe cut it back to about 5 minutes every day in that instance. But other than that, every other day is fine, especially during the time where we have the most amount of light. Right now, I'm mowing the yard about every 5 days because it's just growing so quickly. It's the combination of heat, length of day, and of course, water since it's so warm. We'll head off to the rose garden because I've got some lilies that are blooming, and I can't wait to show them to you. So these finally started opening up about 2 days ago. They are a double flower, and they're absolutely stunning. And I'm like so happy on how well they've done. I've also got over here one of the oriental or trumpet lilies that is blooming. And I'm going to see if I can zip in here, get you a little better angle. And one thing too, right when these lilies open, and especially like when you do Easter lilies at Easter, because they're forced, take all the stamens, these are stamens, and take them right off. Just like that. It's so incredibly easy. By doing that, that'll prevent the flower from pollinating itself. And if you can do this early, you won't get any of the pollen on you because it hasn't matured yet. So I'm just going to take the rest of those off. And that is going to be a much longer lasting and of course prettier flower because you're not going to have the pollen dust in there as well, dirtying up the flower color. While we're back here, we can take a look at the Shasta daisies, and they are again, I couldn't ask for better Shasta daisies this year. The gladiolas, they're done blooming. Only had half a dozen spikes, even though the foliage looked great. I'm gonna go ahead and cut those back this week. Just the flower spikes, not the foliage. The foliage is next year's bloom. Got some beautiful scaviola below here. We also have some white scaviola. Up top there are the chocolate cosmos, which does have a chocolate scent. This daylily over here, really doing terrific. We've got 1, 2, and 3 blossoms right now. We've got the dahlia. And over here, we've got the thyme that's coming into bloom. This is Dunes Valley, which is a variegated thyme. I don't really see any variegations right now, And just by moving those stems a little bit, you can really start to smell the fragrance of the thyme. It does have the variegations more in the springtime. And I also have this blossom over here. This plant is related to Gloxinia, which is related to African violet, which actually would be an interior plant and very delicate. This one is very, very hardy. It's for outside, half day to full day sun. You can see the bloom stalks coming up, so I can't wait to see what that's going to be doing in the next week or two. One really cool thing, if you remember last year, we had this Peruvian daffodil, about 3 bulbs that I planted. They grew just fine. They did not bloom. I've got a bloom stalk. Yay! So we did move this away from the edge because it just is a little bit too tall for getting too close to the border. We've got a bud on the Tabernet Montana, so excited for that as well. It looks like we even have a little bit of a bloom too. So very excited. What else do I want to show you? The almond bush beginning to bloom. And I was going to say also, this is really, really fragrant. So another reason to plant lilies. This is the Casablanca lily, which is going to be pure white. These are going to be a double pink, also extremely fragrant. And here is the other tree lily, again about 6 foot tall on that, and I'm looking forward to that. I did tie these up. I do have a stake, not that the stake's going to do an awful lot, but I have a stake back here just to mark where the bulbs are, because you know, when these die down in the winter, you don't want to go digging around and then accidentally cutting a beautiful bulb in half and killing it. I've done that before. I don't want to do it again. So I do have a stake marking each of these, and also in the wintertime I can see how well spaced out they are when everything's cut back, and I can plant the new lilies. I didn't do any new ones this year. Time kind of slipped away from me, but next year definitely I'm going to do some more. We've got the Liriope Morgan's White. We've got the Liriope, not Morgan's White, but looks great anyway. Red Dragon Japanese Maple. There's a dwarf Mugo Pine down there. I need to get in and clean out all these leaves. Look at the beautiful Sandback Jasmine. This is a double. Grand Duke is the variety. Once again, incredibly fragrant. One of my best fragrance as far as the jasmines go, but you do have to be right up to them to smell them. Variegated oregano. This is Just Joey right here. The heat's kind of blasting it open. We also have some sterling silver, there we go, and an old time variety. You can kind of see as well how the flowers are not too strong, they kind of weep a little bit. This is why the American Rose Society, the ARS, gives this a low number. It's a fantastic plant, it's fairly disease resistant, beautiful blossoms, easy to grow, really the strongest kind of lavender flower there is, but because those stems are weak, they're not good for cutting in terms of showcasing like in a show. So the ARS marks it down. So it's probably around a 5.3, 5.6 on a scale of 1 to 10, but really that has so much to focus in on the stem itself and the way that the flower is held. Touch of Class, which you've seen in other videos, that's like one of the highest rated, perfect for, you know, basically competition. So we'll move on. We've got a lot of mint coming up and growing. I did try the apricots from the apricot tree. They were outstanding. The dogwood hanging in there. Over here, hosta blossoms. Got the beautiful bloodgood Japanese maple. The ferns hanging in there, and I'm really happy from where it's planted because it's already getting that dappled shade, not only from the tree, but from already we can start to see the sun going lower in the horizon. Not by a whole bunch. I mean, we're a week past the solstice now. So in my latitude, we've got about 15 less minutes of light a day. And that is close enough to the fence where you can start to see it's making a difference. And I at least want to get it past its first year growth. And I also still want to promote the growth on the Chiananthus tree, the Chinese fringe tree, because I want this to kind of fill up this entire space, even to help protect the false Aurelia, even though it doesn't look like it needs any protection. It's growing really, really well, but it will darken in color with more shade. The Jatropha back here, blooming, and very cool, always very cool tropical leaves. The Pittosporum tenuifolium variegatum, we cut that back and it's now leafing out again. You can see a nice little flush of new growth. Our other Japanese maple and the Elizabeth magnolia. Again, I'd really like to see a whole bunch of growth on that this year so that it starts to shade more of the yard as well. Shasta is still looking good. Still lots of them to bloom. The Monarda did not do that fantastic this year. Just kind of sent up this one spike. We can see a lot of growth kind of creeping in among the rocks as I've been kind of trying to dig in here a little bit. And yeah, just didn't do very well. What did do well is the Shishigashira Japanese maple. Can't complain about that. That's perfect. I would actually put in another one. I'm so pleased with it. Variegated geranium. Happy that came back. The columbine, incredible amounts of foliage there. Yarrow in bloom, but probably too shady of an area for it. Other things. I know it's not, I want to say it's Jacob's ladder, but I don't think it is. Sorry, it's not coming to me. But the variegated, and I think it's Polyanum is the botanical name. This was from White Flower Farms out of Connecticut. I know people in the back east are looking at this going, Dave, that's a weed. In California, we have a difficult time growing it. So it's kind of more of a specialty plant for us. Incredible amounts of foliage on the Devalia and as well as up here, even though it's got a stem from the tree up above. I also did some pruning on the tree, kind of raised the skirt on it a little bit, and I want to do some thinning of it as well. It's got just a lot of foliage. It needs to be cleaned out. Wanted to make it more airy. This is the mirror plant, the Caprasma. Another Japanese maple. Orchids from Andes Orchids. Pittosporum tabayra, lemon balm, and that's lemon balm now in bloom. We've got creeping back here, look at that daylily, ruffled edge. Get that out of the way. There we go. The conifer doing really nice. I showed you last week that I got the weeds out of this area here, cut back the geranium, lots of new growth coming out of that, which is great. We've got some Acorus or sedge back there. Simicifiga behind that, that's very similar to a heuchera or coral bells. begonia back in the corner. And this area, cleaned that out a little while ago. That's looking good. Over here, I'm still waiting for the lavender to leaf out. It's not leafing out, so hopefully it will. I'm not sure. If not, they are fairly old plants. They've probably been in the ground 10 years. You can definitely tell from the stems on those, so they kind of need to be replaced anyway, but I don't want to if I don't have to. And then the dwarf eugenia leafing out from the time we cut it back a few weeks ago. Other than that, I think that is all the highlights for this week. Oh, let's head back up over here. I did spend some time kind of pruning this ligustrum. Now, this ligustrum is always kind of cool because it's seeded here. It is the regular Japanese privet, and I just went ahead and kind of thinned it out, made it a little bit more of a topiary, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm hoping that I can keep it here. Not exactly sure what's going to happen to the pond area. Most likely it'll just be filled in because I do want to do a little bit of a shade structure over here. But again, as we go into summer, it's not going to happen this summer. So it's something that I'll probably put on the list for the winter time when we're cool. I still need to cut the ligustrum back over here so that it looks more like this over here. That'll capture me about another 4 or 5 feet in terms of width. And yeah, that's where I am. So I think we're gonna head back over here because Bo, not only did she start this video, she's gonna end it in the shade. And we will see you next week with another garden video.